I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's Prophecy in the News.
I'm Gary Stearman, and today we're going to be talking with the author of Apollyon Rising 2012. His name is Tom Horn. He's put together an exciting book.
And we're delighted to have you, Tom, to come and be with us again today. We've got a lot to talk about. Last time we talked about Apollo. We didn't flesh that out. We're going to talk about Apollo again today, so stick around. We'll be right back. The book is Apollyon Rising 2012. Fascinating book, over 350 pages. We've got a lot of things in this book that will just blow you away, because Tom has taken the various cultures, Aztec culture, Jewish culture, even from Eastern mysticism and what have you, to put it all together as they all seem to zero in on the year 2012. Now, that is not to say that Christian theologians do. We're not date setters, neither is Tom. But to bring all this together into one book really gives you a lot to chew on. Tell us about Apollo.
Well, when we ended that last program, you had asked me about this importance and, how is this connected to the book? How is Apollyon and 2012 and the other issues we were talking about, how are they all connected? And this was one of the key things that made me feel that this book should be written, because after discovering that the influencers of the certain design of iconic artifacts important to the founding of American history, that they were familiar with this belief system. Not only were they familiar with it, but of the thousands of things they could have incorporated into the U.S. Capitol dome, they chose, of all things, the Aztec calendar stone that ends in the year 2012. And anybody that wants to go to Washington, D.C. and take a tour of the Capitol, go in, stand, look up at the frieze of American history and look right at the the Aztec calendar stone that ends in the year 2012. Once I knew that, I went back to the design of the Great Seal, because just like the 500-year-old Mayan Chilambalam had connected 1776 to a 13-stepped countdown ending in the return of their God, the Great Seal, the reverse side of the Great Seal, is essentially that same imagery. In Roman numerals, 1776, a 13-stepped uncapped pyramid over which is hovering the eye of Apollo. But the historicity behind Apollo is directly connected to the biblical Apollyon. Yes. In fact, all good scholarship recognizes they are one and the same, that Apollyon is the god Apollo. What most Americans might not recognize is that on the Great Seal, the symbolism not only points to Osiris, who is the Egyptian version of Apollo, but the mottos point to Apollo, who is the Greek version of Osiris. So we're talking about one and the same entity. And the phrase Novus Ordo Seclorum, this is taken directly from a prophecy of the Cumae Sibyl. She is the most important of all of the priestesses of ancient Apollo. In fact, what's very interesting is if you travel to the Sistine Chapel, and if you look up inside the Sistine Chapel, alongside the Old Testament prophets is the Cumaean Sibyl, a priestess of Apollo, who in the New Testament is actually identified as a demonic deceiver.
And by the way, Novus Ordo Seclorum on every dollar bill. You can look at one right now. Page 209 of your book, here's a heading: From Jurassic Park to the Tomb of Apollo, Osiris, Nimrod. I read a quote here: could the same technology described above, or some variation, lead to the resurrection of a pagan deity, Apollo, Osiris, Nimrod, who returns to rule the Novus Ordo Seclorum? And then you go on to link these various features of esoteric thought in a way that I don't think I've ever seen linked together in a book before.
And yet the connection is solid. I mean, it's it's not a play on words. It's not reaching to try to connect these personalities. They are connected through history and through scholarship. And the prophecy that's on the Great Seal from the Cumae Sibyl says that Apollo will return, giving birth to a new golden pagan age. That's actually, we commonly refer to it as the New World Order. But from her prophecy, it is a new golden pagan age. It is the restoration of the golden age of Osiris, the age of Apollo, when the gods ruled upon the earth. She prophesied this would occur. Well, then when you look at the Great Seal of the United States, you realize that it is a prophecy about the return of a deity that is identified in more than one place in the New Testament as the spirit that will inhabit the Antichrist. I mean, is this the most shocking thing on earth to know that the most powerful nation on earth and that its greatest seal has a prophecy on it that the Bible would identify as the coming of the Antichrist?
And that seal has the pyramid. You mentioned in your book the Great Pyramid in Egypt and the possible tomb of Osiris there. And the keeper of the pyramid right now is a man named Zahi Hawass. Yes. Everybody has seen Zahi Hawass on television. Nothing gets done around the Great Pyramid unless he says it can be done. And he believed that the tomb of Osiris was down there. Is that correct?
Yes, he believes, well, and was it like a 2020 television special or something a few years ago when he thought he might have found the underground tomb of Osiris, remember? And they built a big event around it, and they went down and sucked all the water out of there and went down. Now, as far as we know, they didn't find the physical remains of Osiris. That's as far as we know. But what it did illustrate is that leading Egyptologists believe that Osiris of mythology is actually based upon a true historical figure. And that was the important part about all of that to me, is that they actually believe this character walked upon the earth. In the Bible, of course, he's identified as Nimrod, and he's the builder of the Tower of Babel, out of which you have this Babylonian mystery religion that very much plays into the mythos of Rosicrucianism, Freemasonic rituals. Now, that's also only one part. You know, Dan Brown came out with his book recently called The Lost Symbol. Interesting that his first working title was The Solomon Key. Now, I think this was telling, because the Solomon Key is an ancient grimoire, a book of magic, that the Rosicrucians and these other mystics use for binding and loosing the sun god and other deities, the 72 cosmocrators that they believe in their Gnosticism have power over the earth. We could get broiled down in that, but if a person reads this book, they're going to learn that there's a reason why there are 72 pentagrams at the base of the apotheosis of George Washington. And it all, if you look at their own belief system, out of their own words and from their own scholarship, you'll learn it has to do with controlling those 72 demons over the earth for their agenda, their purposes.
Wow, there's a lot in this book. I'd like to encourage you to get a copy of it. You can by simply calling the phone number at the bottom of your screen, ordering it from us. The phone number, 1-800-475-1111. This book is $15.95 plus shipping and handling. We'd be glad to get it right out to you, and you can read about it for yourself. Almost 350 pages, absolutely incredible. It's just chock full of all of these things that Tom is talking about. So get it today, will you? We'd be glad to send it out to you. $15.95 plus shipping and handling. And when you call, you might also want to ask for our latest magazine, Prophecy in the News, and we'll give you an idea of the various articles that we have in it as we study biblical prophecy. So call today, will you? Let us hear from you, and your purchase and or gift will help us to maintain airtime so that we can keep these programs coming your way. Gary, this is an absolutely astounding book. It has so many things in it. But the interesting thing about it all is that it ties all of paganism together, as everyone, with the exception of Christian theologians, because we don't set dates, everyone else is sort of looking to the immediate future for the rise of Apollo.
Absolutely, and this is the astounding thing to me, J.R., that the secular world is now doing what the Christian world has been accused of for a long time, date setting. I suppose they can get away with it. But in 2012, we see the synthesis of all of these different ideas that we've been reading about now for decades, and suddenly they're coming to a sharp focus together, and you make a really good case that they come to a focus in the greatest capital on the surface of the planet right now, Washington, D.C.